All right. So Robin and John Polastri, I got it. I knew it, and then suddenly. So Robin and John have a story to tell us and a proposal for ministry to bring to us. And so I ask that you listen with hearts wide open.
Good everyone, it's going to just be me. A lot of help in getting the presentation ready, but sometimes it's easier when it's just one voice. So here I go. Good morning, everyone. I'm speaking to you today to tell you a story I hope may move your heart as it has moved ours. My name is Robin Polastri, and some of you have known my husband John and me for the last 11 years since we made St. Aidan's our church home here in Victoria. We're permanent residents of Canada, but we do also spend a good deal of time with family and friends down in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is why you only see us sporadically pop up here at worship services. In 2013, John and I took part in a year-long study group through our California church about the history of the Israel-Palestine conflict, culminating in a 12-day intensive learning trip in the West Bank. It was an eye-opening experience, and we came back on fire with a passion for the Palestinian cry for justice. That passion hasn't waned, and we continue to be engaged on many fronts. In the same year, Barbara Hansen, a longtime part of the St. A's family, also went to Palestine and experienced that same fire. The three of us met shortly thereafter and joined forces to promote Palestinian advocacy. Also with us today is May Shahade, who figures largely in the story you are about to hear. And as part of our effort, Carol Monroe is continuing to share her knowledge and experience about what it's like to welcome newly arrived refugee families. John, May, Carol, and Barbara, can you stand up or wave or something so everybody can see where you are? Great. Now we are five, as May, Barbara, Carol, John, and I come before you to enlist your support in our effort to help Nader and his family find a permanent home in Canada. Our story begins, very sadly, with the massacre in Christchurch, New Zealand back in March. Afterward, Reverend Cheryl attended the Vigil of Solidarity and Remembrance here in Victoria. There she came into conversation with May, who spoke to Cheryl of the challenge that Palestinian refugees face worldwide in attempting to find an official home where they can enjoy the same human and civil rights as all other peoples. May was seeking help for a Palestinian refugee currently living in Thailand. His tale is harrowing, as most refugee stories are. Nader was born in Iraq, which is where his family had fled to in 1948 after being driven from the land that became the State of Israel. Though born and educated in Iraq, he has no statehood, recognized only as a Palestinian refugee. His wife is a Jordanian citizen, as she was born in East Jerusalem, then part of Jordan, prior to Israel capturing East Jerusalem and the West Bank in the '67 war. Their 13-year-old son, born in Amman, Jordan, is also stateless. A child's citizenship is determined by the father's, not where he is born. The story of Nader and his wife begins with love, of course, and they lived together for many years in Iraq. During the chaos following the Iraq War, however, he was compelled to send her back to her family in Jordan to give birth to their son in safety. The continuing sectarian violence, including death threats to his family, eventually forced Nader to flee as well. Rules prohibiting him, as a Palestinian refugee, from living in Jordan prevented them from a life together there. Thus began the circuitous route with his ailing mother in tow, which ultimately led Nader to Thailand. From there and ever since, he has faithfully and diligently sought help to reunite with his wife and son in a permanent home and to provide the kind of hopeful future any parent would wish for their child. Back to Reverend Cheryl. We were in church the day that she spoke so honestly of the tension created when what we profess to believe and to live by is challenged when a hand is placed directly on our own arm, followed by a direct request for help. We've all been there. And of how uncomfortable that tension can be. John and I heard the call in our hearts and were moved on the spot on that day to put the passion that started in 2013 into practical action by supporting this resettlement effort. The time that has elapsed since that day has passed at warp speed. This is starting back in March. We connected, we educated ourselves, we reached out, we organized. Our initial team of 5 came together, fundraising was discussed, a process was revealed, a timeline was developed, and now it's now. An image that comes to mind is walking briskly towards automatic doors, which suddenly part at precisely the right moment so you can walk through without slowing down. And then each next little circle of light to step into appears. St. Aidan's has been down this road before, sponsoring a Vietnamese family many years ago and a Syrian family more recently. Now, here is a chance to consider helping again. Our timeline is quite short as we are trying to submit a completed application under existing 2019 quotas ahead of the upcoming elections when a possible change of government could change those future quotas. Our deadline to submit the application is September 30th. We plan to partner with the Intercultural Association of Greater Victoria, the ICA, and we need to demonstrate that we are what they call a viable sponsorship group. We're far along in this process because those automatic doors keep opening, but now in short order, here is what we need in either energy or finances or both. We need additional signatories to the sponsorship agreement, and here's what that entails. In signing the agreement, signatories form a constituent group. Their responsibility is they are guaranteeing their commitment to help the newcomers settle in during their first year in Victoria, either by providing or arranging for the assistance which will be needed. St. Aidan's as a church will not be the sponsors of this program. The constituent group will be the sponsors, and we may have folks in that constituent group that are not part of the St. A's family. Additional volunteers will be recruited later to join the settlement team for help once the newcomers arrive, but only the signatories bear a legal responsibility to the process for 1 year. There is no financial or donation obligation to commit as a signatory. We need 3 to 4 more signatories. Is your heart moved to be one of them? And we'll need to raise funds. For a family of 3, we'll need to raise $45,000 to $50,000 from far and wide. And again, this is not going to be a church responsibility. These will come from individuals who are moved to contribute to this cause. However, we only need a minimum of $25,000, half of it, but we need that by the deadline of September 30th. We'll have more time to raise the second half of the funding after submission, when we can then go ahead and set up a pledge process to help spread out your donations until the family arrives. John and I will also be doing significant fundraising through our network of U.S. friends who are closely committed to the Palestinian cause. Again, the initial $25,000 needs to be raised by September 30th. Is your heart moved to contribute? We'll need a number of additional volunteers to be part of the settlement team. This comes later. There will be plenty of time after the application goes in to recruit additional volunteers to help with the various needs of the newcomers. Once the family does arrive, help will be needed to arrange for housing, dental, and medical care, ESL classes, school enrollment, transportation, household setup, clothing, shopping, etc. And the thrift store can play a huge role in getting that process going. And May, who has 34 years of refugee assistance under her belt, has committed to take a leading role in the resettlement process. Many hands make little work. Is your heart moved to be part of that team? We were touched during last week's service to hear Ed Dyett's moving account of their immigration story and the difference such a monumental decision made in their lives. But it addressed more than that, emphasizing the underlying humanity and the sense of welcome and assistance that made their transition go so well. My husband John also has an immigrant story as his family left Italy in 1960 for a new life in California. He too knows what it feels like to be a newcomer, with all the uncertainties and sometimes indignities that accompany that experience. And it's what gives him a heart for seekers, knowing firsthand the courage, fortitude, and faith required to undertake such a journey. Given the current immigration sensibilities and the long-standing animus towards the Palestinian voice in the U.S., John and I are thrilled to be able to partner in this compelling effort with you here, and to commit to it with both our energy and our finances. In closing, some may ask, of all the refugees in the world, why Nader? Why this family? I'll paraphrase an undoubtedly familiar story. Once an old man was walking along the shore after a big storm had passed and found the vast beach littered with starfish as far as the eye could see. Off in the distance, he noticed a small boy approaching. As the boy walked, the man could see that he was occasionally bending down to pick up an object and throw it into the sea. As the boy came closer, the man called out, "Good morning, may I ask what it is that you're doing?" The young boy paused, looked up, and replied, "Throwing starfish into the sea. The tide has washed them up onto the beach, and they can't return to the sea by themselves. They'll die unless I throw them back into the water." The old man said, "But there must be tens of thousands of starfish on this beach. I'm afraid you won't really be able to make much of a difference." The boy bent down, picked up yet another starfish, and threw it out as far as he could out into the ocean. Then he turned, smiling, and said, "It made a difference to that one." We want to make a difference for Nader and his family. They are the ones we've come across. So after listening to all this, there are only 3 questions you need to remember. Can you sign? Can you donate? Can you help? We'll be available during the barbecue for any questions, and hope your heart is also moved to help Nader and his family. Thank you.